what to ask or tell?
Couple of things to ask and then a couple of things to tell. Let me start by telling. So I have started on, I'm just bringing up your, so I have started on F exercise for unit 2
Mm-hmm.
today.
All
So
right.
I'm at the end of unit 2, and a couple of highlights from unit 2. Um, I think most exercises were very helpful, and I do see some kind of difference definitely, which it's a little bit of it is cumulative too. So that's all good. The only thing is that on section 2 C, sorry, unit 2 section C, the
Mm-hmm.
twist and untwist, that created almost low back pain for me.
Mm-hmm.
I did it twice, maybe 3 times, I think. And I hear an echo. Hold on.
And that could also be you hearing yourself as the echo.
Yes.
All right. I need to switch off of external speakers. It's a perennial problem with the technology is
Hmm.
feedback.
Okay. I don't think so. That was the issue, but it still is okay.
No, let's check it. Should be gone now. All right. How's that? Talking. Let's see.
Yes, much better. No
All
echo.
right.
No echo now. Okay, great. So section C created a little bit of pain, and I wanted to ask you, the pain was more because somehow, and I wanted to communicate that to you, when I lie flat on the ground with legs stretched out and
Mm-hmm.
hands on the side, uh, my pelvis is, I think, not in the right position. It doesn't touch the ground too much. And doing that section C, that twist that untwists, I think was helpful for the psoas muscles. I think, or from the get free from the back pain.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a little bit of it created a little bit of a pain. So I did not. I'm hoping that as you explained, that some of this would get less as I practice this more and more. But it was
Yeah.
not something. It was a little bit uncomfortable, and I moved on to doing the next one.
Good.
That's one. Um, the other thing is that when I was doing section E, I I actually mentioned this in the form. I do have, I think, beginning of arthritic pain in my knees.
Mm-hmm.
It runs in the family. I stressed my knees when I was young quite a bit, and there is a little when I sit on the bed with my legs folded in the Indian position, sitting down, my legs start paining. So I now do not sit in the bed or keep them folded too much. But during the exercise, there was a little bit of the pain, and maybe it's because I was not doing the exercise properly, um, or whatever. But I think the exercise were helpful in the E section, but I felt a little bit more stress on the knees. Um, is that something that you hear commonly, or is that something more of a function of I'm doing the exercise first, and some muscles are a little bit learning to flex?
Well, it's the latter. That exercise, the straight and bent leg integration, will reveal any tension patterns that you chronically hold in the legs, and that includes the hamstrings. So I suggest when you do that one that you follow that practice session,
Mm-hmm.
straight and bent leg integration, with the exercise to free hamstrings. Most knee problems come out of tight hamstrings.
Mm-hmm. And I have hamstrings, really painful hamstrings, very tight, and
Mm-hmm.
I can bend, but I can't stay there for too long. So I've been regularly doing the um, after each unit after each section, I do the gentle waves and free up the tight hamstrings. So I do
Okay.
that every day now.
Yeah, that's
After
fitting
the
for that location in the regimen. I found that myself, so that's why I put it into that practice session.
Yeah, and my hamstrings are really tight. Actually, they are really tight, and they don't bend. And so I feel that these exercises are attacking the right areas. So, and there is a cumulative there is pain there, but I think there are two types of pain. One that is because of my digestive problems in the large intestine and pain, chest pain. So the second type of pain, I feel that that's lessening. The other thing I wanted to share with you was that when I
Wait,
was
wait,
doing
wait,
this,
wait, wait, wait.
go ahead.
Because you've already given me two items about which I want to comment.
Hmm.
So let's handle those one at a time. Otherwise, I'm going to have to remember what you said while you're talking to me about something else. Okay.
Okay, I'll pause. Makes sense.
All right. So, as far as your pelvis not contacting the ground or floor surface and back well, that's either because of tight front hip flexors or tight low back muscles or both.
Hmm.
The gentle spine waves gradually freeze the low back muscles,
Okay.
and Unit 2, Section A, the movement walking into the floor,
Hmm.
reaches into the tight hip flexors in front. So expect a progressive improvement about that. It's just muscle fatigue that you're experiencing there and
Hmm.
the soreness. And sometimes it's also the soreness of the release having occurred, which is usually very short term,
Okay.
space of hours or maybe a day thereabouts. If it doesn't clear that quickly, you contact me at that time and I'll point you to something that you can use to get yourself to let go more quickly in the low back.
Okay. Okay. So and I like the unit 2 section A exercise. It did help me
Hmm.
quite a bit. I could see the difference. So um okay, that's good. Anything else before we um anything? So I'll keep, so for these exercise now I'm in F. So now for unit 2, what's your recommendation that I go back and start at F and then do the reverse couple of times? What's the regimen? Because that's what on the website says.
Sure. Have you done F yet?
I did it today in the morning.
Okay. And the number of practice days appears in the regimen.
2 days for F.
Okay. So you'll be doing more of F and also practicing the tongue mudra.
Yes.
And F is a perfect setup for the tongue mudra because it involves the movements of the jaws that carry the tongue along with the jaw movements. And F, uh, as preparation for the tongue mudra, puts you into the neighborhood of what you'll be practicing in the tongue mudra. Those two are complementary movement patterns. And if this is your first practice with the tongue mudra, let me ask you, is it?
No, because tongue mudra, I learned a little bit of it from the Jain monks in India that I used to follow.
Yes.
Then you have tongue mudra as part of the gentle wave pieces also, where or at least not the full mudra, but touching the tongue with the roof of the mouth. So I've been doing that as part of the suggested pieces, but I've not done tongue mudra completely.
Okay. There are major differences between the touching of the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, the bhaga,
Hmm.
and the tongue mudra, which involves 3 points and an action of the tongue plus breathing
Hmm.
plus attention. It's a big difference.
Hmm.
So do the tongue mudra as described in the instructional video until you can do it as described and get the sensations that are described. At that point, it magnifies very much the effects of the other exercises when incorporated into the practice of the other exercises.
Okay.
There's one
Nice.
exception, which is you cannot do the tongue mudra while you're working with the jaws in section F.
Nice. I get
But
that. Yeah.
every other movement you can.
Yeah, and I wanted some okay, so I will do the tongue mudra
Mm-hmm.
after the section F, and then I wanted, so section F, I did the first part of section F
Mm-hmm.
and tried to follow the freeing up of jaws, but I'm not entirely clear that if I'm doing it correctly, because I heard the video, and I think I was getting, but I think maybe I was getting only 60-70% of it right, process. So when I say, so two questions I had was, um, when I my little fingers goes in to the lower jaws inside
Mm-hmm.
my mouth, and is it on the outside of the jawline, or in the inside of it?
It's a hook, the finger's hook,
Oh,
that gives you a
okay.
secure connection to your lower jaw. And then in the beginning, you'll end up probably starting with using more force than is necessary, because every beginning of any new action is approximate and somewhat crude. But then as you practice, you decrease the amount of pull between your lower teeth and your little fingers,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and that produces a better effect to use less
Got it.
force. That is,
Yeah.
if you maintain very constant force, that it's not getting more and less, that it's very even as you move, very even, that will create the internal sensations that show you how to let go of the muscles of biting.
Okay. So yeah, I was actually putting my fingers on the side here and not using it as a hook in the
Uh-huh.
lower jaw.
Okay.
So, so is this it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Got it. Okay. So I'll be able to do it properly today. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think because I was getting this position wrong, the other I was not following that well, but I get it now. Some of the
Okay.
steps are more clearer, that now I can move my upper head over the jaws more easily,
Good.
back and forth, lower jaw. Okay. Um, and then you said during this, uh, any essence of this exercise, anything, any specific place during this exercise, like for the section F, you said first part of section F is, the essence is the sensation in the lower back.
Salud.
Thank you.
So, as the essence for the jaw movements of section F is the steady evenness of the pull on the
Okay,
lower jaw as you go forward and back.
got it. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So now after finishing F, I do the tongue mudra. How many days do I do it, and what's the next? Do I keep repeating? Do I do the repetition for F to A back and forth, or do I move to unit 3?
Ah, okay. I hear two questions in that. As far as how much to do the tongue mudra at that point in the regimen, you do it until you are feeling what I describe in the entry on the tongue mudra.
Okay.
And then you go from F to A backwards order.
Okay.
And you go back and forth until you get major changes, improvements in yourself. And when you feel like you're not getting new improvements, then go to Unit C.
I see.
Unit
Okay.
C is a polishing set of exercises, not the heavy duty effects
So,
of Unit B.
so the core of the program is unit 2, and unit 1 and unit 3 are setups and polishings
Yes.
that set it us.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay, very good. I understand the flow, and I will do so accordingly. I have other two other questions, but about my family member that I wanted to bring up. But
Hmm.
anything else that you want to give, any inputs that you want to give me?
No, I think I've said it all.
Good, thank you. So I wanted to ask you about my wife and my father. My wife
Hmm.
first has been recently diagnosed with, she's 42. She's been diagnosed with severe arthritis,
Hmm.
and her X-ray, uh, the doctor, the osteo specialist, said that her knees were, uh, we usually see it at the age of 65.
Hmm.
So the cartilage is pretty much gone in one of the knees. She has quite a bit of pain. She is overweight, and her posture and walk. I mean, walking has been a big difficulty for her, always since we married. But even before that, I think her posture and her walk have issues.
Hmm.
I think that's at least observation, based on observation. So uh, I know that I briefly read something on your website about rejuvenation of cartilage. What's Have you seen patients like her, and what's is would it be worthwhile to explore something for her with you?
Well, the first thing is that the rejuvenation of cartilage article assumes that there is some cartilage left to regenerate.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the knee, if there is no cartilage, it's beyond what somatic education can do. For the knee that has cartilage left, it can stop the progression and create the conditions for the cartilage to regrow. But cartilage grows very slowly, not like skin or muscle,
Hmm.
very slowly. So the recovery would be correspondingly slow. But by freeing the tight hamstrings, again, that's usually what's behind knee troubles.
Okay.
And by improving posture and movement, she can remove much of the strain from her condition.
Yeah.
In a
And it's
gen-
the pain. Yeah.
the
Go ahead.
general program I would recommend, without knowing more than that she has a lot of general posture problems, would be the cat stretch exercises.
Cat stretch exercises. Okay.
Okay. And then added to or following lesson one of that program
Mm-hmm.
would be one or at some point two of the hamstring exercises that I've published. My guess is she'll have to be doing the cat stretch exercises to be flexible enough to be able to do the hamstring exercises.
Yeah. I don't see her doing hamstring at all. I mean,
Mhm.
the one that I don't think so. She can bend at all.
So she needs to do the cat stretch exercises first,
Okay.
get much more flexible and more comfortable, and then go after the hamstrings. Now, when a person comes to me in person, I use hands on clinical somatic education methods to free hamstrings much, much faster, much, much easier for the client. But for a
Mm-hmm.
person who's working by themselves, they have to be capable of doing the somatic education exercises for hamstrings first. They have to be capable.
Mm, I see your point. So let me talk to her. Maybe I can get her started on cat stretch
Hmm.
exercises, and
Okay.
then maybe at some point time get an audience with you for her.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
Actually, it might make more sense the reverse for us to have a consultation so that I can get to the detailed information about her condition, because it's possible that I would recommend something more gradual than
Mm-hmm.
as her entry into the somatic education exercises, something that is within her capability and more exactly suited to her condition.
I agree with that. I think it might be worthwhile to just get a consultation for with you.
Mhm.
Okay, let me talk to her because she was a little bit hesitant to do this, but let me talk to her and I will schedule something for her with you. But I'll have to sit in on her with her because
Yeah.
Her concern is that she might not understand the instructions properly. So I might have to sit in on the session with her so that
Mhm.
if there is some translation that's needed, I can do that.
Sure.
Okay, that's one. Second, I wanted to talk to you about my father. He's in
Mhm.
India,
Mhm.
and his age is about 74. Physically, he is relatively healthy. He spends about hour and a half, at least every day walking. He usually eats well. I mean, he doesn't drink. So he's physically, for his age, he's pretty okay.
Mhm.
Although there are issues with his walk that are very similar to mine. But, he has been walking for some time. So there is some partial issues, but that's not the primary reason I'm calling. Our family, I think there is an early onset of some form of Alzheimer or dementia,
Mhm.
very early onset.
Mhm.
And it's not, and we don't know really whether even that diagnosis is accurate, because nervous disorders in our family they run from my father's mother's family quite a bit. So the nervous and mental disorders, he's been fine, but he's always been a forgetful person,
Mhm.
a little bit of a careless person who always had trouble organizing and structuring things. And those things are when he was 30 and 40. But now 74, my mother says he's getting very irritable. So there might be a chance that he's getting Alzheimer, and the existing nervous conditions were getting worse with that, coupled with age, are having a cumulative effect. Anyway, my question after this long explanation is, do you see somatic exercising and awareness of the body helping the nervous system, or is that too much of a stretch?
Oh, that's exactly how it works.
Okay.
Now, as far as Alzheimer's or loss of mental functioning, I have two things to say. One is that it's popular in the writings, at least in the USA, about Alzheimer's for people to do exercises that use the brain. And they think in terms of crossword puzzles. I think that is, let's say, in the right direction, but it falls very far short. That
Mm.
movement is a far better approach. But not knowing your father's walking pattern, I can't say much about changes that he would need to go through to improve walking. But walking is a high coordination action pattern. So I think that somatic education exercises would be helpful, but he needs the mental focus to be able to transform spoken instructions into actions.
Mm.
So that's one challenge.
Yeah.
The first thought that came to mind in your description of his condition is have him start doing tongue mudra and pranayama together.
Okay.
And the caveat here is in good form, no approximations, not the usual uh, bhaga technique of tongue to the roof of the mouth in one point. And it has
I
to be
see.
the full tongue mudra. And one reason for that is head position. In elderly people, very often the head position comes down and forward, and that changes numerous things in the head in terms of circulation and sensation and intracranial pressures.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to get the head up and seated properly on the neck. The tongue mudra has that happen. It causes that to happen with practice to get spontaneous self adjustments of head position.
Yeah, I think the two things that you outlined, one is the translation of spoken word into action coordination.
Mm,
That might be a challenge because two fronts. One, he might, I mean, he's okay to take, he can repeat stuff, but now I think his ability to take new instructions and process them is getting weaker. But I think he's still very, very conscious. It's not that this is stage 2 kind of thing. So I can try that with him. And the second is this whole tongue mudra thing, because I see your point is that his posture, and when he sits, there is a little bit of, and when he walks, there is a bit of that it's not complete straight posture. His head is tilted towards one side and he is leaning a little bit forward. So there
Hmm.
is a little bit of, I can see that it's not a straight or neutral position body that he holds it easily. I think
Hmm.
even after a lot of walking exercises, there is a lot of rigidity in his body. um, so the tongue mudra might be, with pranayam, might be a good. Any specific pranayam that you recommend?
No, not really.
Okay.
The tongue mudra has one instruction related to pranayam, which is when the person experiences the the sensation occurring in the roof of the mouth and the nasal passage, to breathe the breath through that location. So that's one form. But if the person has other instruction in pranayam, like to do mulaband or uh,
Yeah.
fire breathing or other forms, then those can be integrated with the tongue mudra, and it will
Yeah,
only
let's
enhance
start
the
with the
effects.
easier one. Let's start with what you have.
Yeah,
And let me do this is I am going to do the tongue mudra a couple of days, and then have a conversation with him, because I did set him up, and he realizes that there is some degradation of mental capacity, and he chalks it up to age. But he also knows that his mother, my grandmother, went through a severe case of dementia starting around 80, 81,
hmm,
when she was 81, and it progressively went bad
hmm,
post that. So he knows it, and he is open to options to mitigate some of those effects. So I will keep talking to you about him, and perhaps either when I go to India or when my father visits him, perhaps get a session for you to look at his posture and recommend further pieces.
yeah, we
But
are.
you believe that the somatic exercises are good, because I do feel that, I think when you are aware of your own mental sensations on a sustained basis, when you're aware of your own physical sensation, the mental function, the awareness capacity of the brain improves.
That's right. There are not two; they are one.
Yeah, and this gold key release piece, this all these exercises, when you ask to sense your muscle or low back, it's all about getting the mind's capacity to be with those physical sensations.
Mhm.
And we are training our attention there, we are training
Yes.
our brain there. And if we can do that, I think some of the negative effects of Alzheimer can be at least mitigated, or delayed.
Hmm.
Okay, that's very helpful, Lawrence. This is so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish my section F, do the tongue mudras and do the reverses. Now, how many days of tongue mudra should I be doing the proper exercise?
Until you can do it well, and then integrate it into the other sections of Unit 2. So that
Got
means
it.
yeah, okay,
Good. This is good. I think I have what I wanted to ask you, and thank you. And I will keep you abreast of whatever developments are on my side.
very good. And I'll
Thank
put a
you.
link to the recording of this conversation into the chat window of this uh, particular Google Hangouts call. The way you get
Okay.
it, you put your cursor in the left side of the screen and you'll see some application icon surface. And the
Yes,
one that's blue with horizontal lines is the chat box. And so I can drop the link into that.
I see it.
Okay, and So then you can view it at your leisure.
Okay.
And I'll do that as soon as we complete the call.
Thank you very much, Lawrence.
Come to think of it, that may disappear when we terminate the call. Let me put it in there now and you copy it.
Yeah, and I think I can access it because Google Hangout is linked to my Gmail.
Right. So I've just dropped a link into your chat window. Do you see it?
I do see it.
Okay, that's clickable and also copyable.
Yeah, and I am put this is in YouTube, so I can access it. I'll put it in my
Yeah.
favorites.
Very good.
Very good.
All right. Until next time,
Thank you. Namaste.
namaste.